Hey everybody, how you doing? It is August 29th, 2020, and I'm finally ready to put this all together for you and show you the truth behind Hurricane Laura.
Friday. All eyes on the Gulf. Laura is expected to make landfall within the next 6 to 7 hours. The hurricane hunters are flying now. We should get new data from them within the next hour. The most recent advisory, 145 miles per hour, powerful Category 4 hurricane. The two biggest threats from this system are wind speeds. Clearly, 145 miles per hour is the max speed. Gusts of 30 to 40 have already been felt along the Gulf Coast, and storm surge. The National Hurricane Center not mincing words with this. They are calling it unsurvivable storm surge. Storm surge is when the wind literally pushes the ocean onshore, and what used to be dry land becomes the new ocean floor. 15 to 20 feet, that is as tall as a giraffe, expected across western parts of Louisiana. Central parts of Louisiana, 8 to 12 feet. Closer to New Orleans, 4 to 7 feet. This will happen tonight as high tide coincides with the greatest potential for storm surge.
Did you like how she even said, oh look, it's as tall as a giraffe? The stuff that they've been coming up with is just completely, just crazy. And like I showed you at the beginning, Laura and Rita followed almost identical paths, okay? Rita hit about 15 miles to the west of where Laura made landfall. Laura made landfall in Cameron, Louisiana, okay? And I want to show you some articles real quick, and then we're going to get into all the wind speed and the data and just so much more. Look, this is just one part of it. Hurricane Laura reduced some coastal Louisiana homes to concrete slabs, nearly consumed entire towns. Really? Because we're going to get into this right now. And here's another one. It's in full beast mode. Category 4 Hurricane Laura surges toward landfall near Texas-Louisiana border. So they were just pumping this up, with the beast and this monster, over and over again, right? Look at this one. Laura's strongest hurricane to make landfall in Louisiana in 164 years. Okay? Now, I am going to break down the wind speeds and a few other things like I was telling you. But I want to start here with the governor. Listen to this.
As we flew around the region at about 1,000 feet, we could see the way that the storm impacted different areas differently. And I'll be candid with you, of all the areas that we saw, the worst that we saw was orange. It seemed like the most significant damage I was able to observe, both from the sky as well as on the ground in this region, is in orange. You saw more rooftops ripped off. You saw more shingles missing. You saw more trees down. That said, as I ask everybody how they feel about working their way through this hurricane, everyone pretty much had the same phrase, and that is, we dodged a bullet. It could have been far worse. We were anticipating, and it was prognosticated, that there would be a storm surge that could very easily exceed 10 feet. I was told earlier that the storm surge was about 3 feet, and that 7-foot differential means all the difference. We would not be gathering here right now had we seen a 10-foot or higher foot storm surge in this region like what was anticipated earlier. And so when you consider the magnitude of the damage that could have occurred here, we did dodge a bullet. Now, that, of course, doesn't help those whose homes have been hit, those whose businesses have been hit. And for those people, we want them to know that we are already working on the process of helping them rebuild. We have a very important person here, the man on the end, most important person in the room. His name is Tony Robinson. Tony Robinson is with FEMA.
Did you like that? Like how they threw that in there right there too? Very, very important person from FEMA.
And he worked very collaboratively with me and my administration from the time of Hurricane Harvey all the way till today. Some details I want to get into. One is, as you may know, want to clarify, I have declared a disaster in 62 counties, and the president has similarly declared a disaster in each of those counties. Hurricane Laura made landfall near Cameron, Louisiana, about 30 miles east of the Texas-Louisiana border at 1 a.m. as a Category 4 storm hurricane. Winds exceeded 80 miles per hour, and the storm surge was an estimated 2.5 to 3.5 feet at the Sabine Pass area.
So you heard them there. They've all said now it hit as a Category 4 storm, Category 4 hurricane. Landfall was in Cameron, Louisiana, and they said it made landfall 140 mile per hour winds.
Port Arthur, you could see, was less. It was 38 miles per hour sustained winds with gusts up to 51 miles per hour.
So Port Arthur, Texas, 37 miles from landfall, 38 miles per hour sustained, and 51 mile per hour gusts.
Orange County Airport, winds sustained at 29 miles per hour with gusts up to 54 miles.
Orange, Texas, 32 miles from landfall, 29 miles per hour sustained, and 54 mile per hour gusts.
And Beaumont Regional Airport, 59 mile per hour sustained with gust up to 66 miles per hour.
Beaumont, Texas, 52 miles from landfall, 59 miles per hour sustained, and 66 mile per hour gusts. What I did next was I took those places, those cities, and put them on a map. Got the map all lined up, which you'll see, and I took just from their information, just from what they were saying, how far the winds went out, and the diagram that the winds, should have been producing, okay? Okay, so that's what that is. That's their own model. It took me a long time to get these two maps almost identical, and as you can see, the inside red circle says hurricane force winds 74 mile per hour, 60 miles from the center. So anybody from 60 miles of Cameron should have had 74 mile per hour sustained winds, okay? And then it shows that the tropical storm force goes out even 205 miles from the center. So that's over 400 miles, 410 miles wide that people should have been getting tropical storm force winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour and not gusts. Hurricanes are classified by sustained winds, not gusts, so remember that. But now, just let me go back and forth on this. I want to show you a few times back and forth. There's the cities. You can just see slowly, I'll line it up. Every one of those cities is in the little red circle. Okay, so they said Port Arthur, Texas, right? Had 38 mile per hour sustained and 51 mile per hour gusts. Everybody, that's only 37 miles from the landfall of Cameron, Louisiana. And it only had that, 38 miles per hour sustained and only 51 mile per hour gust. When they just showed you completely right, from them, that these areas were all in the hurricane force winds, okay? They were supposed to stay in hurricane force winds for, an hour or more in those locations, okay? They didn't get that. They only got 51 mile per hour gust was the highest they could get. So let's keep looking around, right? Orange, Texas, same thing. They said 29 sustained, 54 gust. That was only 32 miles from landfall. Beaumont, Texas is 52 miles from landfall, and it had 59 mile per hour sustained and 66 mile per hour gusts. Do you see how none of this lines up? None of it at all, yet they were pushing nonstop how bad this was, that it made, landfall as a Category 4 with 140 mile per hour winds. Now I want to show you some of the damage. I have put these side by side, and I want you to see them. I want you to see from each city and how bad it was with Rita and how bad it was with Laura. And just remember that Rita was only 13 miles west, the landfall, okay, from Laura. That is how close these storms came on. But remember, Rita was a Category 3 with sustained winds of 115 miles per hour. Laura, 140 miles per hour and a Cat 4 according to them.
Hurricane Laura will go down in history as the most powerful storm to ever make landfall in southwest Louisiana. It happened just beneath us in the middle of the night in Cameron.
Some serious stuff here.
Flooded neighborhoods, crushed homes, and unpassable roads are all around us.
You seen anybody outside?
No, I haven't seen anybody.
The only way to get around here is in a survey helicopter piloted by U.S. Customs and Border Protection Air and Marine Operation agents.
There's maybe some older houses demolished.
First names, Jeremy and Tad.
I'm guessing this is still the left side of the eye because
Right.
they're facing down.
These hurricane rescue veterans can actually spot where the eye came through by looking at the way debris is pointed.
RV's not going to handle anything.
No, there's a lot of damage around here, but look at this right here on Marshall Street in Cameron.
That house is in the street.
A house came off of its pad and was thrown into the middle of the street. The house was floated away from where it was before the storm. It's powerful.
The next town over is Holly Beach, where we spotted some activity on the ground and landed on an empty foundation.
Okay, now check out some of this damage. Holly Beach, which is actually in the center of those two landfalls. Rita is on the left, Laura is on the right. And I've tried to slow it down in certain areas so you can just see the complete opposite of what they are saying. Holly Beach was literally wiped off the map. Laura, you can still see all of these other buildings that are, there's damage, but you can obviously see it was nowhere near as strong as Rita. The thing is I am not even saying anything close to where this wasn't horrible. My prayers go out to everybody that was affected by this. I'm just saying that it wasn't just a Category 4 hurricane that did this. This was definitely weather warfare, and we just see it everywhere between derechos, wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes. We truly are under attack. And here are more from Lake Charles. Here is Cameron, Louisiana. This is ground zero for Laura, okay? That's where it made landfall. Now, Rita made landfall 13 miles west, so Rita was 13 more miles away from Cameron, okay? And these are the comparisons in Cameron.
will be rising. Our winds have now gusted to 72 miles an hour. Remember, hurricane strength is 74, so we're close to seeing those hurricane force gusts here in Lake Charles.
Yep. Yes, it is going to be close, but right now we're in the eye wall, Steph.
Okay, so they should have just been getting devastated. Instead, they're standing there saying that they're standing in the eye wall. I hope putting this together the way that it is, you will be able to see that this was not what they said it was, okay? This was maybe a Cat 2, a borderline Cat 1, Cat 2, okay? You can see the damage. They're nothing even close, okay? And just always remember, Rita was weaker than Laura, you know, calling this the strongest storm in 164 years. And this is what the damage it did. Come on. You can't get any more obvious than you look at the wind speeds. You have wind speeds to confirm this. And you also have all of, you know, the destroyed areas, you know, to compare back and forth. Okay? It doesn't line up. One thing that does line up is them talking about getting 75% of the people out of those locations that were there, the ones they put underneath mandatory evacuations.
The pandemic made the shelter situation complicated for this hurricane, but emergency managers estimate 75% of the people who live along the coast did leave. And that's evident here.
Wow, just listen to that. The eerie quiet here and the lack of people in these two towns where the storm pretty much made landfall in the middle of the night is actually a success story. They heard the warnings, unsurvivable it was called, and for the most part, they got out with their lives.
Now they're all being told in most of these areas that they're not allowed to go back because it's not safe. So where are those people at now? Where are those 75% of the people that they took on those buses, that they put a bracelet on, and then they put them in the system and put them on a bus, tested them, their fever, tested them, you know, for CV19, took them to some shelter, they said. Well, when are they going to come back? Are they going to come back? They're not letting them right now, so are they ever going to let them? You know, we just have to watch this more and more because we are catching them more and more. So I hope me putting this together like this for you and showing you, and maybe you can take this and show other people and say, you know, these are the facts. We're just going off of their, you know, their reports, their, you know, their own, you know, reports that they're coming out with. We didn't go off of anything else besides their data. And the images are, you know, the destruction, you know, it stands for itself. You can see it every time you look that there's no chance Laura was that much stronger than Rita like they said it was going to be, and then you end up with the, you know, the destruction that you did from Rita and hardly anything comparative to Rita, you know, from Hurricane Lauren. So we're going to leave it here. I want to edit this and get this out to you. I've been working on it for 2 days, so everybody please continue to pray. You know, one of my subscribers said maybe, you know, that all of our prayers worked and stopped this, you know. I definitely, you know, I was saying, yeah, that's awesome. Think about it. Maybe, you know, why would they back it down? You know, we'll keep digging into the reasons why they would have or why they didn't, you know. And, you know, maybe she was right. Maybe good just was, you know, more powerful than evil and, you know, stopped it and wouldn't allow it to go. You know, the highest surge was 9 feet, they said. And, you know, of course, it broke all the gauges. You know, the highest surge went into areas that they don't have gauges. You know, I showed you that in my last video, how the radars broke, you know, etc., etc. But I'm going to get off here. Thank you all so much. I hope you all are doing well. And if you have anybody in these areas, please let them know that I am praying for them. And, you know, we will continue to share this truth. I love you all. Stay safe. Stay strong. No fear. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.